Good morning, everyone, and welcome to ESO. I am Lisa, and I am from My Tilted Games. I am 55 and still playing video games. Go figure. So, what I wanted to chat with you about today is that I had some direct messages yesterday with people asking questions specifically about getting started in the game. So I don't know if you guys are on the fence about it or if you are possibly looking to get started with ESO, and just some of the terms that I was using in some of my other feeds were a little confusing. So I really wanted to address some of those things now so that I would hopefully either spur you to make the jump off of into ESO, or to just kind of figure out what you wanted to do with the game. So I am going to go through some of those things, and I apologize if this ends up being kind of boring for some of you returning users who know ESO. But the fact that somebody actually took the time to send me this email just kind of leads me to believe that there were some questions out there that I'm really hoping that I can answer. So, first to let you know is that Elder Scrolls Online is a online game, of course. It is generally set up to be multiplayer, although there are a ton of content and areas that you can participate in without being in a group. So there really truly is something for everyone.
Nobody comes out of cryptic
There
hearts alive.
is also a lot of
How'd you
group
do it?
content by small groups, which are typically 4-man dungeons, or also even by large groups with 12-man trials. So really, if you are a solo player, or want to play in small groups, or want to play in large groups, there is something for you in ESO. Having came from Skyrim, I guess, and Skyrim Oblivion, which would have been probably 15 years or so ago, I can tell you that I definitely enjoy the solo aspects of it. And that's not to say that the group aspects are not fun, but there is lots of fun questing and just running around and looking at things and running into bosses and doing that sort of stuff. So don't feel bad. I initially started out with the intentions that I would probably play by myself. Being out of the gamer loop, I guess you would say, not having played online games before, I truly didn't have any intentions of playing with other people. One, I didn't know anybody else who played, so I really thought that I would be playing solo. And that has ended up not being the case. You know, you just kind of find yourself in situations where you make some friends, and the next thing you know, you are in 4 groups, or 4-man groups and 12-man groups, enjoying the game and content that you cannot access if you do not have those options available to you. So ESO does promote the group play. They have set up something called a guild. And basically what a guild is where a like-minded group of individuals can join to just get together. Now, if you are on Xbox or PlayStation, I think you have an opportunity to do voice chat. But with PC players, it's slightly more complicated. You usually join a Discord server, which is just basically a chat app that allows you both to text and voice communicate. in game, and it overlays seamlessly, and there's not a bit of a problem with it. So you really don't notice that you don't have the ability like you would in consoles. So I need to do my provisioner's writs here. I had some things in my quest log that didn't allow me to pick up all of my crafting writs at the same time, so I'm just trying to figure out
My favorite cure
what it
for
is
no
I need to
spirits.
get done here. So while we've been talking, I've been doing my crafting writs, and I do have some other videos that goes into crafting writs kind of more deeply, and what exactly it is, how to get those started, and why you should be doing those every single day. But I also really wanted to do those kind of live so that you guys would have an opportunity to see that they really don't take a very long time. So, let's see. One of the questions that I had asked is, what is a delve? So, a delve is basically a miniature dungeon in ESO. And a delve is there's usually 5 or 6, or in some cases significantly more, that are throughout each of the little areas of ESO. So let me start here by showing you the map. So this is the map of Tamriel, and this is all of the areas that they have developed that you can go to. These little places here on the map are called way shrines, and these are way shrines that are open to me, which means that I can teleport to them. So even though I am actually here, if I want to go somewhere over here, I can teleport to that way shrine. Now you'll notice when I hover my map cursor over it, it says that it costs 131 golds to recall. That means that if I'm porting from actually right here where I'm standing. However, I can simply go to the way shrine and I'll be able to do that for free. So the way shrine is pretty close here in Somerset, which is one of the reasons why I like Somerset so well, is just the close proximity of the things that I use every single day. And right over in that direction is the bank, and here is a way shrine. So now if, let's say, I wanted to go to another location, I would simply choose the way shrine, and you can see that when I hover over it, it does not cost me. So that is something that is really handy to save you that gold. Let's see. So now that we were talking about way shrines, let's talk about delves. So if we want to travel to another place and find one of these delves, you'll see that they are marked here on the map. A delve is basically a miniature dungeon. A delve is a place that you can go generally by yourself, or if you have companions, you can take your companions to go to delves with you, and that's just kind of your fake second person. So with the Blackwood edition that came out just a few months ago, Elder Scrolls Online has allowed players to get companions. And there are 2 little mini quests that you can do, but the end of which is that you get 2 companions. And this is Miri. She is one of the companions, and the other companion is Bastion. Now with these companions, they will travel with you except in the group content areas, and they provide, I call them targets. So bosses can focus on them, enemies can focus on them as well, and allow you to easier get through the content. You can set your companion up a couple different ways. The more that you use them, the more skills for your companions that you have available. You can make your companion a DPS, a tank, or a healer. So that then leads us into one of our other questions, is what in the world are these roles? So a DPS or a DD is a damage dealer, and DPS stands for damage per second. So a damage dealer, or a DPS, is going to go through the game just basically killing stuff. A healer, as you might assume, would be usually someone that is magicka based, that would have the ability to heal the team. So it is always excellent to have a healer on your team. And then you have the position of tank. And a tank is a position that, as you might imagine, is considered basically immobile. And a tank usually runs into the room first, grabs the attention of the biggest boss in the room, and keeps his attention while the DPS comes in behind and inflicts damage, basically killing whatever boss they're fighting. A healer's job is actually to take care of the tank. Because the tank is taking the brunt of the enemy's forces, the tank needs to be really heavily armored and very thickly resourced. And the healer's job is to replenish the tank's resources, particularly health. Now, if a healer is got the tank in a good position, then of course that healer can take care of the DPS as well. But really, a DPS needs to be able to sustain themselves and not rely on the healer. Because if the healer has to pick who she's saving or he is saving, they should pick the tank every single time. Why would that be? Well, if the boss decides that it is no longer aggroed or taunted by the tank, which means that its attention is not focused on the tank, it will turn and attack the team. Healers, being magicka based, typically wear light armor. So as you would expect, a light armored character is not going to be able to survive some of the onslaught of the enemy. DPSs typically wear medium armor, so they are certainly a little more sturdy than the healer, but a lot less sturdy than the tank. So now that you kind of understand those roles, you can see that you have a good option here with these companions in making them perform any of those duties that you are interested in having them do. And they should be a complement to your character. So one of the things with being a tank is that I'm a tank. I find that I do not have the ability to do the damage that a DPS would be able to do, for example. So I have configured both of my companions to be DPSs, so they are putting out a higher damage output than what they would be as a tank or as a healer. I don't really, as a tank, because I have a lot of health naturally, need help staying alive. I do have some self-sustained skills, but as a tank, I have difficulty killing things quickly. So by running around with my companions that are in the roles of DPS, I then have the ability to get through content significantly quicker. And we will deep dive into companions a little more, talking about equipment and skill lines and how you set those up. Really, I just wanted this to be an introduction into some of the terminology that you use with ESO every day. So going here through some of my other questions, what is a harvest map? So in PC version, you have little add-ons that you have available to you that unfortunately are not available to console players. And a harvest map or a map pin is something that is added to the PC game by virtue of something called an add-on. And it is just a little addition to the program that marks areas where you have found goodies.
There's got to be a better source for your alchemy practice.
If you take a look here, this shows that I have harvested something here, and it marks it and lets me know that what I have retrieved here was an alchemy plant. And then if you take a look here, there is a map pin here that also marks for me to let me know that at some point I have retrieved something that would be blacksmithing related. So it would be like an ore. And then this little neat map pin is marking a treasure chest. There is occasionally a treasure chest that spawns here. So I am able to keep track of those things as I explore areas that I've been in before. And it's just really helpful, and it's an add-on that I enjoy very much. I initially started out on the Xbox and have since transferred to the PC. And when I say transferred, you cannot take your game or your characters with you. You basically have to start over. But I am playing full-time on the PC now. I do not play on the Xbox anymore at all. So the way that this add-on works is that you see that I have a plant here, and so I am going to pick it up, and you'll notice that my map pin replaced itself there. And let's do another one here. And you'll see there's a little different symbol for the alchemy. And we'll take a look here and found the treasure chest. As always, if you guys have any questions about any of this information that I'm giving you, because I know that it's a lot, please feel free to comment in the chat. I'll be happy to answer if I can. And if I miss your question during the live stream, I will certainly answer the question after. If you are enjoying this and this has been helpful to you, I would certainly appreciate if you would subscribe to the channel or like the page, either one. And
looks like you're buying at the next
absolutely
pub,
feel
Fla.
free to share with someone that you think may also enjoy this as well. So this little run here that I'm doing, I kind of call my little Somerset run. I typically do this every day after I do my crafting grits. There are quite a few treasure chests located in this area, and so I like to take the opportunity to just loot them. Once I'm done with my crafting grits, I typically will go to a merchant to sell off things that I have received as bonuses for doing my crafting grits, and also to repair my equipment. Here's a thieves trove. Definitely going to take those goodies there.
What would you like to talk about?
And then I would also like to mention about thieves troves. So thieves troves are just little goodies that you can come up with in the game. They are kind of randomly placed.
If you're going to kill bugs, at least kill fetcher flies.
And you have the opportunity to take the contents out of those. But if you do, those items are considered stolen. So you don't want to use a thieves trove while you were in public. And I've got some stolen items that I need to get rid of myself. So we will go into the Outlaws Refuge here in Somerset in Alanor, and I will show you what you need to do with those.
If you're going to kill
I'm just
bugs, at
continuing
least kill
doing my
fetcher
little
flies.
harvesting. And oftentimes there's another treasure chest here. I really wanted to give that a check before
Can never have enough of that.
we head up. So I'm going to talk to the merchant and sell him anything that is ornate. You will see that ornate items are marked with a little gold money bag, so I'm going to sell those items. Then I'm going to take a look for things that I will not necessarily use. And that would be typically green and white items. Those are lower in value, blue and purple are higher in value, and I typically save those items to make sure that I deconstruct them. And deconstructing is something that you do to increase your crafting skills and also to harvest materials out of things that you have gotten, like pieces of equipment. I do have a couple videos that deep dive into crafting, but we'll go into it a little bit today as well. I'm just going to take you through kind of my morning run, harvesting nodes as I go. Okay, so if you take a look here on the map, you see that my cursor is actually over a little area, and it says Alanor Outlaws Refuge and Fence. So this means that this is where the criminal element of Alanor is residing, and this gives me an opportunity to get rid of those items that I have that are stolen. Now, I do not have to actually get rid of them. I can keep them, which would mean I would actually have to launder them. So I am looking for my fence guy, and I am going to talk to him.
Keep a watcher.
And I have the opportunity to sell these things outright, or I can launder them, which means I pay him a fee and he removes the stolen marker from them. So these are not really anything that I want to keep, except I have a large shipment, which is a box that contains items. So I need to open that up to see what that is. Okay. So now I'm going to go back and talk to him again, and I want to sell those moon sugar chaw boxes that were in my large shipment, and that gives me $400. I'm going to sell him the stolen lockpicks, the chalk, and the piece of equipment. So I don't have anything that needs to be laundered. Now what happens there is that I no longer have these items in my possession. So when I am out and about running through Alanor, I don't have to worry about running into a guard and losing the items that I have collected and having to pay a bounty. And there are outlaw refuges all over the place. You just need to look for them on your map with that marker that I showed you.
1,000 pardons, but the battle reeve requires your
because
prompt
they really
appearance at
are,
the Proxy Queen's court.
All over the place. So now I've come up here and I'm going to talk to my stable guy. My stabling is not yet ready, but you really want to do your rider training each and every day. It does cost 250 gold, but that is it. The price never goes up. Your riding training consists of a couple different things. Your speed, which is riding speed, so that's how fast you can go when you are on your mount. That is something that is critically important. The next option is stamina. And stamina is how long you can sustain those speeds. So the more stamina you have, the longer you can go fast. So that is also something that is critical. And then lastly is carrying capacity. Now each of these items go up to 60. So you can only do these every 20 hours. It can take you as long as 3 months to get all of these completed. So you really need to prioritize where you want to go. My recommendation would be start with speed, then work on your stamina, and then your carrying capacity. Now carrying capacity actually changes your person, not what you can put on a horse. So that is actually only 1 bag space though. If you are upgrading your bag space with the bag merchant, you know that you get 10 spaces each time that you do that upgrade, but this carrying capacity under your rider training only provides you with one. So it is something worthwhile to do because it gives you a additional 60 spaces. However, it's not where I would prioritize your training. I would go with speed first, then stamina, then carrying capacity. And if you look here on the map, there is should be like a little horse here that denotes where he is located, and that will make it real simple to find him. Now you can use any stable that you come to that has anybody that you can talk to. It doesn't have to be done in just one place. I just choose to do all of this in Alador because everything is together, and it is really simple to do.
You appear to need direction.
So I'm coming back to the crafting stations. Normally I would not do this until the end of the day, the time that I'm done playing, because I want to just talk to you guys a little bit about deconstructing things and item sets. And that was one of the questions that I had received, is what are item sets and what are collections and how do you use them? So ESO is full of tons of clothing options and gear options. So I'm talking weapons and armor. If you go into your inventory screen, you see that you have a main hand weapon, an offhand weapon. You have the backup, which would be for your second abilities bar. You have head, chest, shoulders, waist, hands, legs, feet, and then you have jewelry, necklaces, rings, and 2 rings as a matter of fact. So there are lots and lots of choices and decisions for you to make. When you are starting out with ESO, you really do not need to worry about these things directly until you get to your equipment cap, which comes at 160. So I would just really recommend wearing the best pieces that you have in your pocket to get you through to the 160. And then once you get into 160, you can start worrying about equipment. So equipment is a much longer thing than what I want to get into here today, because I really wanted to focus this video on being a new player. So I think that if I dive a little bit into equipment, that's going to make that really confusing. So I'll do that as a separate video. What we were talking about, though, is what exactly is a set and what that means to have it bound or collected. If you take a look at the piece that I am wearing now, it says that I'm equipped, but it is hidden by the hat that I'm wearing with my costume. It says that it is bound and collected. And you'll also notice that there is a lock icon, which means that I have that locked. I do that so that I do not accidentally deconstruct it or sell it. If it was unlocked, then it would be fair game, but I actually want to retain this, so I have locked it. That is very simple to do. You would simply select it and then choose into actions, and then you see, because it is locked, I would have the option to unlock it, or in this case I'm going to lock it. And that's all you have to do to lock it. Now, so what does the bound mean? If you look in your menu under collections, you see that you have sets. And this is a relatively new addition to ESO, something that they have just added in the last few months. So sets provide you with basically a sticker book. For those of you who've played Pokemon, there are lots of references that people make to sticker books. ESO calls them set collections. So I have some new equipment here, which is why this is pulsating. So let's take a look at what I have. So I received some things in Somerset, and I have a new piece of equipment that was added here. Each time that you collect a piece of equipment and you bind it to your account, you are adding it to your sticker book. So let's see if I have anything that I can bind that would maybe make a little more sense. And I don't think that I do at the moment. So let me show you this piece. This is a groom graced maul, and this is something that I just collected up. But you'll see that it says bind on equip, which means that if I equip this item, it is going to bind it to me. So I would lose my ability to sell it or to give it to another player. If it says bound, I only have a couple things I can do with it. I can wear it, of course. I can give it to one of my other characters. I can deconstruct it, or I can sell it to a regular merchant for significantly less than what you could sell it in a guild trader. It says that I have collected it, which means that I have already had a piece of equipment like this, and I have already put it into my set collections or my sticker book. So let's take a look at the set collections here on Somerset. Now, we were just talking about the Gloom Graced Maul, which is the one that I just received here. And you see that I already have that in my collections book already. And each of these items will fill in. It looks like there are only 2 pieces that I'm missing of having every piece in this entire set. I am missing the ice staff and the lightning staff. So what good is that? What this allows you to do is, instead of you having to go out and farm or search for or kill things to get a specific piece of equipment, once you have bound it to your account and into your set collections, you have the ability to reconstruct it at a later date without physically having that piece of equipment with you. So that really just cleared up a lot of bank space for ESO players, and everybody that I have talked to has really enjoyed this method of tracking equipment. In this particular instance, because I have so many of these pieces, all of the pieces that I can reconstruct would only cost me 29 transmutation crystals per piece. Transmutation crystals are something that you earn from doing some daily quests, random daily dungeons, and they accumulate into your account for your use. They started out having only one purpose, to transmute a trait to something else. And we'll talk about traits in a minute. But transmutation crystals now have the ability to allow you to reconstruct a piece of equipment that you have collected previously. And that is the second use for transmutation crystals. The cost to reconstruct can be as high as 75 crystals, but the more pieces that you have in that set, the lower your cost will be. So you see that if I want to, for example, reconstruct something in the Grace of Gloom line, I can do that for only 29 crystals. However, if I wanted to reconstruct something, let's say, in the Radiant Bastion line, where I only have one piece, that is going to cost me 75 crystals. And then you see that there are also sets here that I don't have any of, so reconstructing is not an option for me. Now, when you reconstruct something, you can also change its traits. So just because I received a Gloom Graced Maul with a particular trait on it, that does not mean that I have to stick with that trait when I reconstruct it. I can construct it to any trait that I have researched, and that comes back to crafting. And you really need to research traits so that you can transmute and you can craft anything that you want as you get deeper into the game. Now, what are traits? Traits are things that are added to armor and weapons and jewelry. So I need to turn my option for quest only off so you can see it. So I am here at a crafting station, and let's see that I want to make a ring, for example. I would choose ring, and then I would go up to the highest option that I have, and I want to, because the equipment cap's at 160 and my player is over 160, so I want to make sure that I change that. So I'm using my highest quality material, and I am using the highest skill level that this can be used. And then the next option I have is traits. What trait do you want to use? And each trait does something different. Now I do have the option to make it without a trait. I don't know why you would do that, other than if you're making things for questing. But if you can make this healthy, which you see increases your maximum health. You can make this arcane, which increases your maximum magicka. You can make this robust, which increases your maximum stamina. You can make this swift, which increases your movement speed. You can use harmony, which increases your damage, healing, your resource storage, and your damage shield synergies that you activate by 12%. You can make this triune, which increases your maximum magicka, stamina, and health. It takes care of all three. Bloodthirsty is also an option, which increases your weapon and spell damage. Protective increases your resistances, and infused, which increases your jewelry enchantment. Now, if you've seen that I had most of these available to me, with the exception of triune, because I have not yet finished my jewelry researching. So I would not have an option to craft something or reconstruct something using the triune stone, because I have not finished researching it. Once that is finished, I would have that ability. Now, in this particular case of the swift that requires the gilding wax, I would have the ability to craft something using that if I actually had any gilding wax on hand, which I currently do not. And the same is actually true for the infused. If I had the arboric amber on person, then I would be able to craft something using that trait. But because I do not have that, I would not be able to currently craft with that. And even though I only showed you jewelry, it is the exact same way in clothing. You see that you have these options here. These are styles that you can also add, which really just change the way that things look. And then here are all of your traits down here as well. Now you'll notice that my clothing, I cannot craft CP 160 gear yet, because my clothing levels have not been expanded to the point that allows me to do so. So I would only actually be able to craft a level 60 gear, is the highest gear that I can currently craft in the clothing line. So again, that is another reason to work on those levels and get your experience up. Now in woodworking, which I have expanded that because I use woodworking items, I have the ability then to craft with ruby ash, which is the highest, and you see here that 160 is available to me. And then I have different styles here that just really affect the appearance of the item, not the function of it. And then I also have all of my traits here that I would be able to choose. It looks like I have all of the stones that would be necessary to do the traits, with the exception of Nirnhund, because I have not yet researched that. If I was making a shield, if I was making a weapon where I am finished researching Nirnhund, I would actually need a piece of potent Nirncrux to make that item, should I want to make that Nirn. I also have some other videos on researching and how important that that you keep that going, and that there are passives that allow you to research more than one item at a time. In this particular case, I have put skill points in those passives, so I am able to research in blacksmithing 3 items at a time. Researching is very time consuming because for each piece of equipment you see that you have a lot of traits that you need to research, so the sooner you start on that, the better. So since I'm here at the blacksmithing station, I'm going to go ahead and deconstruct some things. You'll notice here that I have a blue gloom graced maul. That's the one that we've been talking about. And it is already in my set collection, so it is marked as collected. I could possibly sell this to a guild trader if I was interested, or I could even sell it to a merchant. But instead, I prefer to deconstruct my blue and purple pieces of equipment. So I'm simply going to select it and deconstruct it, and you'll see that I got 2 little stones from it. I got a rubidite ingot, which is basically the materials to make it, and then I got a stone. I'm going to take a look here. I've got a ruby ash lightning staff, and so I actually only got ruby ash from there, probably because that didn't have a trait to begin with. And let's see, this shield did have a trait. It was impenetrable, and you see that I, in addition to the ruby ash, I got a material, and I also got a wax, and that is something that is used to improve your equipment. And you can get those also by deconstructing items. So now let's talk about equipment improvement. There are a couple different levels of equipment. They initially start white, goes to green, blue, purple, and ultimately gold. I do not believe that I have ever collected anything other than purple. So making something gold would be something that you would need to do, and you would need to have the ability to do that with your crafting. So that is another reason why you really want to do that. The more advanced your crafting skill lines are, the more cheaper, I guess I would call it, you are going to be able to improve things. And the less materials it's going to take, which then of course saves you money. So let's say, for example, I was interested in improving this oak shield. You see it is starting out as white, so my first initial improvement would then be to go to green, which would be considered fine. White is considered normal. I'm going to go ahead and select it so that I can show you guys what difference that would actually make. So if I were to improve this to green, you would see instead of the armor level being at 435, it would actually increase to 504. And my trait, which is Nernhoned, which is currently at 55 for this particular piece, it would increase that to 64. So there is benefit to doing that. It requires that I use 2 pitches. There are passives that you can apply that decrease this amount, but I have completely filled up those passives, so this is the minimum amount that it'll ever be. In some cases, if you haven't put any points in those passives, it will require more pitches. Let's say, for example, it might require 6. So the more advanced your crafter is, then the less materials it costs you to use. Okay, so you'll also notice that there is a notation underneath my pitch icon that says that the chance to improve it is 100%. So what that means is that anytime that you go to try to improve something, you are running a risk of possibly deconstructing it. However, if your chance to improve it is 100%, you're guaranteed to make that improvement. But you see that if I hit my bumper to change it to only using one pitch, which of course is less materials, I run a 50-50% chance of not being able to improve it. Now, if it fails and you do not improve it, then the piece of equipment that you were trying to improve and the materials you were using are all gone. So you really don't want to risk improving something unless you have your chance guaranteed at 100%. So let me back out of here and go to weapons. So I have my weapons at purple. Generally, you would keep your equipment at purple. Jewelry is very, very expensive to improve. A lot of people run blue. If you have something that you just think that you're never going to use anything ever, and you have the extra supplies and the extra money, then by all means you can gold your equipment out. You do get some slight benefits from golding, but the benefits of golding are greater on weapons. So if you take a look here at the Ice Staff of Agility that I am currently running, in purple, I perform 1132 in damage, but if I would gold that, my damage would increase to 1335. And this is not the only change that it would make. So if you take a look under the enchantment, is currently 2192, but if I would improve this to gold, the enchantment would also go up to 2470. Likewise, the stamina numbers are increasing. The trait numbers of the 25% would go up to 30. The cooldown would stay at 50, but the maximum stamina that would be added would be 1752 as opposed to 1691. So this is definitely a worthwhile improvement. The reason that I have not done this is because I am working in a solo arena to get a different weapon. So this weapon will only be temporary for me, and so I do not want to waste my very expensive rosins by improving this piece of equipment when purple is getting me by. So that is also something that you'll need to consider once you get to the CP 160 level. And you also have this option with rings and jewelry. So for example, all of my jewelry that I am wearing is blue, and you see that I can improve that to purple. There is a slight improvement. It's going to cost me 3 platings. I actually only have 5, but you see that my enchantment actually does not change, and the maximum health from my trait only increases 22, which is nowhere near as significant as what the weapon bump was. And then my set bonuses do change, again, a tiny little bit, but nothing crazy substantial. So because of that, I have just not bothered to increase my traits or increase my
They say the storms
levels
from
of
Tempest Island would have drowned and
jewelry.
blasted us all, were it not for your heroics.
So I do want to go back here to the Way Shrine. I have run into some players and some friends who did not know
Heed me,
about
brothers and
this
sisters.
option
You
screen.
look at one
If you were playing on
another,
PC,
suspect
it'll
nothing.
look a little different to you, but I am using an Xbox controller. And I learned to do this with the Xbox, and I think it's very similar in the PlayStation. So when you want to go from one place to another, you would simply use your Way Shrine. And then you'll note that you have an options button. So I have Y for options. And when I choose that, I have a couple things that I can bumper through. I have a log of quests. I have map completion, which gives me details about the zone that I'm in or the zone that I'm looking at going to. I have all of the locations that I can choose from of where I want to go that are actually in order. I can filter these things if I want to make being able to choose them a little simpler. I can go to any of my houses, and I can also go to antiquities that I have available in that zone. The one that I use primarily, though, are locations. So let's say, for example, I wanted to go to Alakar Desert. I would simply hit A to select it, but I do not have the ability then to move anything on my map because I need to hit B for back. And what that does is it just releases your map cursor so that you are able to go over the map and use any way shrine that you want to go to that you have available to you. And this really helps me traveling around. When I first started with the Xbox, I was trying to memorize what all of these little areas were, trying to figure out how to get to them and where they were located, and I would spend forever trying to figure out how to find a particular area that I wanted to go in. And it was just actually by chance that I happened into the options screen to realize that I can pick the location. So I don't have to remember where it is on the map. I have the ability to just pick the area and go to it from there. Now, in talking about the map, you see that there is quite a lot of areas here that are available to be explored. And when you go to your options locations, all of those are here for you listed. And as I scroll down through these, you see that there are lots of things to do. So when we were talking earlier at the beginning of the clip about whether or not ESO had enough to keep you busy, I think that there's more than enough. Okay, so another question that I have is, what is a dolmen? So I do want to take you and show you that. Actually, Somerset has a little thing that is a geyser that is kind of specific to Somerset that is very similar to a dolmen. But there are also dolmens in Somerset, so I want to take you to Alakar, which is a place that you could go that would help advance some of your levels by doing what is called the Alakar Dolmen Run. And that'll be something that we can talk about later. I just really want to show you what a dolmen is. So a dolmen is a place that just kind of spawns on a map. And if you take a look here, it's a little hard to see, but dolmens have like a little spirally notation here. And that guy's fighting him. And this is what a dolmen looks like. So what will happen is that enemies will come down and they will activate this dolmen, and then enemies will spawn all around here, and you simply kill them. And then little things will come up here that will allow you to activate those, that will release the enemy thing that lands on this dolmen. It'll make better sense when you can see it. I'm assuming since people are waiting here, it will be happening in just a few minutes. Once you kill all those enemies and release all of the little stones here around each of the sides. One final kind of mini boss will appear here to the left side of the steps. You kill him, and then there's another little release that you would do here in front of the steps, and a treasure chest will appear right here on the right side. And that is true for absolutely all of the dolmens. When a dolmen comes, usually the weather starts looking bad. You can see that the blue skies have gone away and we're starting to get clouded. So this is an indicator that the dolmen should be here pretty soon. The dolmen run in Alucard is a series of 3 dolmens that are kind of in a triangle on your map. And you typically will come to Alucard and put an X in chat or ask for a dolmen group, and someone will get you into a group. So if you take a look here, we've got this dolmen. It's currently being activated. You see that this will actually drop bolts, and we need to start killing the monsters.
Get back, you betcha!
This will go pretty quick because I see more people arriving, so it really doesn't take long to get these knocked out with people. And now you'll see that these little stones have come down, but they are not yet active. So again, we need to keep killing monsters. Now this one this is an anchor pinion, and so I'm going to click it to destroy it. And basically what that'll do is that releases the hold that this anchor has on this dolmen. And these need to be destroyed all the way around.
Your corpse will make a fine addition.
And once they're all destroyed, the final little mini boss will appear right here. A couple little ads, and then you see a pinion will actually appear here in front of the steps. You destroy that, and a treasure chest appears. So I will tell you that most dolmens that you find out and about are not this busy. Alucard, because it is a place where you can level characters, stays pretty busy. As I was explaining before the dolmen dropped, you can come to Alucard to one of these dolmens and ask to be in a group. Someone will pick you up, and then your group just travels from dolmen to dolmen in each of the 3 dolmens in Alucard, because the spawn rate goes from one to the other. Now it can be clockwise in the triangle, or it can be counterclockwise. Usually you can ask the group, or just travel to group and you'll figure it out which that is. And you just go from dolmen to dolmen and beat the crap out of it and collect your loot and experience points, and then you come back to the way shrine and go to the next one. And that's how people level up in Alucard. But you see we've gotten some goodies here. I actually got a year 1 coffer box because there is an event going on. I received some equipment, and dolmens are also known for jewelry. So I did receive a piece of jewelry. If you take a look, I do have the option to sell this to either another player or a guild trader, because it is not bound. It is bound only if I equip it, which I am not going to do. And it is collected, which means that it is in my set collection. So I don't need to work with this piece of equipment at all. I can do either sell it to a merchant or sell it to a guild trader. So that is dolmens. Now I want to talk to you about world bosses. And let's take a look here. actually, we just ran into a Mundus stone. So that was one of my other questions. So we will talk about Mundus stones. What is a Mundus stone and what do you need it for? Throughout Tamriel, there are Mundus stones. This is one of them. This particular Mundus stone is the ritual. You can do a Google search to find all of the Mundus stones. I think there are either 10 or 12. I don't remember right off the top of my head. But there are a lot, and each one does something different. Now, you can only have one Mundus stone boon active. And a boon is just simply an ability. So I already have a Mundus stone active, but if I would choose to use this one, then I would be increasing my healing that is done, which for a tank, that gives me no benefit because I'm not typically healing. So this would not be a Mundus stone that I would want to use.
Try breaking free!
So Miri has kind of picked a fight with the scorpion, so we have to talk about him. So if you have a Mundus stone available, how do you know this? If you look underneath my health bars, and you will notice that I have the little cup, which symbolizes that I am a member of ESO Plus, and so I get a little bit of an XP boost because of it. I think it's if you have a membership in ESO Plus, you get a 10% experience boost. Then the next little thing that kind of looks like a constellation is the Mundus boon that I am currently running. The other place that you can find that is to go to your character, and if you go down to active effects, you'll see that here's the cup for my ESO, and then here is the boon. I am currently running the Atronach, which is a Magicka recovery. So what does that actually mean? When I use my skills and abilities, I have, for my particular tank, I am not a stamina tank, I am a Magicka tank, which means that most of my skills and abilities are magic based. So if you take a look as I go through these skills, you'll see that the cost, which is highlighted in blue, shows you that all of these things cost magic. So as you might imagine, I am going through quite a lot of magic. And I do have some stamina skills as well, but most of my skills are Magicka based. So in order for me to get magic back, I need to either drink a potion, do a heavy attack which restores it, have enchantments for Magicka recovery, or have a boon for Magicka recovery. And that is what I have chosen to do, is using the boon, the Atronach that I have. Now, in order for you to find these boons, they are marked on your map, but you also have the ability to, if you were part of a guild, most guild houses have all of these, where you can just simply go to a guild house and have access to all of them. So, I was actually looking for a world boss. Now, world bosses are critters that are more difficult to beat. And there are typically at least 6 world bosses in every location. There are a couple teeny tiny little islands, like maybe Strozmakai, that do not have 6, but by and large it is 6 is the magic number. So I do not have access to this world boss. From down here, so I'm going to need to come up around. And I want to do just a little bit of harvesting since I'm here. Alright, so now we're headed towards the world boss. Assassination beetle. And he must be up there. I always have this crazy luck with ESO that wherever I hit, I end up having to go the long way around.
I can never have enough of that.
Because it is not kidding about making me go the long way around. Ah, finally. So you'll see that world bosses are on your map. They initially start out as black, which means that you haven't been there and beaten it. Once you do successfully beat the world boss, it will change to white. So you still have the ability to have the world boss on your map. You just do not have to beat it. And why is that important? So if I take a look at the map, you'll see that I have done very little here in Alakar. Defeating world bosses is definitely something that you can do. Finding way shrines, your main quest. There are 6 delves that I have not been to. Points of interest, sightseeing places. There are 3 crafting stations here. Public dungeons. The dolmens I have completed. You see that. I have not done any of the world bosses. I've only found 7 of 32 lore books and only 4 out of 16 sky shards. So that's not saying much. But let's take a look at some place that I know I've completed. Kenrathi's Roost, for example. And come back. Well, no, take that back. Let me see. It should have been. Yeah, Stroh's Mackay. So if you look here, Stroh's Mackay is just a tiny little island. I have completed the main quests. I have found all the way shrines. The point of interest, Stroh's Mackay doesn't actually have world bosses, but I've visited each of the striking locales, found the sky shards, and found the lore's book. So a lot of times when you are getting started in the game, this is actually the thing that I recommend you do most, is you zone clear. So if you start with the little tiny islands, you'll just get through them quicker, simply from proximity of them being so small. Then consequently there would be less to do. But when you do your zone story quests, you do get a skill point from each of those quest completions. And then you also get sky shards. 3 sky shards make a skill point. Your lore books, finding those and having those completed, will help improve your mage's guild lines. And I don't know that there's necessarily a point to points of interest or the striking locales. As far as them not giving you anything, there are usually quests associated with each of those locations that are not skill point quests, but they are money and sometimes equipment quests. So that's something that you can do. What I typically like to start out to do, because I'm interested in getting those skill points, is either do the story quests or do the sky shard hunts and the delves, because each of the delves have skill points. So we've got our companion here, and I've got some gear up, so let's just go in. It does say that I need to eat, so I am going to use some food. I'm going to use my fortifying meal, which increases all of my stats. Since I am going into battle and I think I'm alone, I'm going to just double check and make sure that my equipment is mostly fully charged. And then I've got my companion here, which is going to take some of the slack for me. Now you'll see that this world boss is significant in that she is 1.8 million health bars. So it is going to take a little bit to kill her. particularly since we're by ourselves. Although we do have the benefit of being companions. Now you'll see as I use my abilities, my blue bar, which is my magical bar, is increasing. And so I'm depending on my magical recovery to restore what I'm using. And I'm also heavy attacking. So light attacking is just basically clicking your button. And you see that I'm doing 1,700 damage. Maybe it's something 75. Looks like my world boss killed Miri. But when I heavy attack, which is where I hold it until it launches itself, that is doing significantly more damage. So in this particular instance, Miri has not done me much good because she is dead, although she helped a little. World bosses are not impossible to kill by yourself, it just takes significant damage. And I'm just throwing out some area of effects, things that will actually damage the world boss. And because I am light attacking and heavy attacking, I'm getting good magic restoration, which then allows me to continue to launch those area of effectability. And that'll assist me in doing more damage to the boss. We started at 1,000,008, but we're already down to 1,000,003, or 1,000,000 actually. Now there are some world bosses, particularly those in Dragonlord, for example, that are really crazy and do require a group, but most of the ones in Tamriel you can do by yourself. It is just very time consuming. So we have down, we're about halfway through. I think she started at 1,000,008. And taking a couple little hits, so I'm going to just use the health restoring ability to get my health back up to par. And again, light attacking and heavy attacking. The heavy attack is to do more damage and restore my ability. They may potentially heal her. So you notice I did turn my attention away from her for a moment so that I can shoot those out. They look like they're very easy to pop. And I definitely do not want her. Not appreciating the damage that I'm doing to her. cranky about it. I was taking some damage there, so again, I'm going to store my film a little bit. Since I am the only person here, if I would happen to die, it would completely reset her health. So now that we are towards the end, I want to be very conscious that the damage that I take from her does not put me in a precarious situation. Because that would hurt me, maybe that always works, and not to mention the shield. And again, I'm continuing to use those magical abilities that I have for different areas of effect that do damage while I am also some of her attacks, but the problem with that is that you can't block and hit at the same time. Your AoE abilities, of course, would work, but I need to be able to continue to work with it. World bosses always give you wonderful loot. You saw that I had a whole host of things there.
Nice haul.
And I got an achievement, and Miri has come back to life. Thank you very much, Miri, for all of your assistance. Now, comparatively, we saw a snake here. Let's just take a look. And you see the snake is only 60,000. So this in its own right is a larger enemy, but the world boss that we had a moment ago was significantly bigger. So you see that the differences are significant between world bosses and regular critters that you run around and hit. Okay, so I'm scrolling through my questions here to see. Rune stones, a dolmen. I think that I have actually answered most of the questions that I have. This terminology
Careful,
just really
we're headed into
becomes
troublesome territory.
really easy once you get into it. I know that when I initially started, it was pretty confusing to me, and that I didn't know what people were talking about a lot. Google is your friend, so definitely don't be afraid to Google something that you don't know. It usually has quite a lot of information there that you can find if you don't understand something specifically that someone says. Yay! So now if you look at my zone map in Alucard, I have one world boss down. Yay! So I want to actually take you to a delve. We had talked about those being like little mini dungeons, so I'm just trying to find where I have one close, and I may not here at Alacar. Let's see. I actually have one delve that I have not been in. So let's go take a look for that. So I'm going to... First I need to port to Sean. Now I do have an add-on. Sorry, I did that without thinking about it. Where it's called Beam Me Up, which allows me to port to other members of the guilds that I am in. And I had one that was actually in Dijon, so I was able to go there from where I was standing. If not, I would need to go to the Way Shrine. You can do the same exact thing if you are a member of a guild without the Beam Me Up software. So if you are using a console, you would simply go to Social in guilds and choose your guild, look at your roster, look at all of the players that are online, which they are marked with the green, see where they are, or you can go over and sort by location, find one that is in the area that you are interested in going to. Assuming that they are online, you would then have the ability to port to them. Which is what I have done here. So, let me... I'm looking on my map to see where that delve is. There's a lot of garbage on my map, so it's kind of hard to figure it out. This is a zoomed in version. Let me see. Oddly, I do not actually see it. This is a good view on the map of the Mundus Stone. You see that I have not actually been to that one yet, but it is here. That's what it looks like on your map. So I'm thinking that it's probably just covered up by one of these other icons for books or something. So let me go to options, and I want to hold the X button to open the zone guide. And it shows me that I have not been to the Knife Gear Grotto delve. Okay, so this area here, let me go back to show you how to get to it. If you are in a place and say you don't really know what to start with and you need to go to the zone stories, for example, that's where it always starts you. I don't think that I've figured out a way to advance it. But it will actually take you everything that you need to do on all of these locations, with the exception of the sky shards and the books. It will not show you those locations, but it will show you dolmens. It'll show you all kinds of things. You'll see that I have an option down here beside my options area where if I hold the X button, it brings up the zone guide. And again, it just gives me the same things that we were looking at with that little bar graph. But I have the choice to do X, which starts zone story. And so what that'll do is that'll pinpoint where I need to go. Now, because I have not done the zone story here for this map, it wants me to start there. But if I had completed that, it would show me either way shrine locations or dolmen locations, delve locations, sightseeing locations. It would take me through all of that. This is a public dungeon. And that has been done. I don't know where that delve. Yep, I do. It was here. Knife Ear Grotto. So this is where I want to go. So my closest way shrine to that is going to be there. And of course I don't want to pay, so I'm using the way shrine instead of the map. Okay, and so you see that we want to go over here, and that means we're going to have to cross the water a little bit. But this will actually be my last delve in this area. And there are always sky shards in delves. In addition to these couple harvesting things, this is a Sigic portal. And Sigic portals are excellent to collect. You do not have the ability to see Sigic portals until you start your Sigic skill line. And if you guys have questions on how to do that, I'll be happy to work with you on that. I want to make sure I'm heading in the right direction here. There's a lore book here. Go ahead and take a dagger because I can always sell it even if it's just a couple dollars. There is a resource here.
Nothing wrong with a little opportunistic harvesting.
So I have my companion and I'm getting ready to go into the Knife Ear Grotto delve. And as I explained to you earlier, delves are just like mini dungeons, but they are really set up so that you can complete them by yourself. There are some areas like Craglorn where the delves are a little harder, but they are still completable. They're just a little harder. Now, normally either outside of a delve or directly inside of a delve, there's usually a little side quest. And since I'm going to be here in the delve, I'm going to go ahead and pick this up. This will not pay me a skill point, but it will give me either some gear or some money or both. So Mary and I are just going to end these guys. And you see that she got a little excited. I probably would not have excited them. These guys a riot here. She went ahead and shot them. Oh, and we have somebody else.
Maybe I should have joined the buoyant archers.
Okay. So I see here on my map that the sky shard is in this location, but it is blocked off by like a little door. So I'm going to have to go all the way through. I see that my quest marker is here, meaning this is where I'm going to need to go to finish that little quest, and that my delve boss is here. So in order to complete this delve, I'm going to need to kill the delve boss, and I will get an achievement, and then this delve will be marked as complete. Now, you do not need to actually fight every single thing in a delve. There are lots of things that you can run by, particularly if you have an increased speed. But the companions sometimes will pick fights and get you into situations. But I find it enjoyable just to go ahead and fight stuff a lot of times. You're going to earn experience points or money from it. And unless you're in a particular hurry looking to accomplish something in particular, I say spend the time and enjoy it.
Something you need?
I also, with delves, am careful to loot, which means if I see things, pick them up. Read bookshelves, because you can increase your skill lines from those bookshelves just by reading a book. Certainly open treasure chests, heavy sacks, any of those things that you find. So I believe that this is our delve boss.
Perhaps you may get noticed, but style gets remembered. That one put up a fight, didn't they?
And this was the artifact. You see that since I beat the delve boss, I've completed and received the achievement. But even though I'm technically done, I am still going to go ahead and take advantage of these books. See what other fun things I can loot. And I want to get my sky shard. And I do have that other little quest that's going on. So here's my sky shard. So the guy that was here was not that far ahead of me, if any, and he did not kill the world boss. So the delve will actually not show up as completed for him or her. So I am just going to double check here. I found the artifact, and now I need to go to another location in Dishon to actually complete that quest. So I am finished here in this delve. behind that cursor. The nearest way shrine is going to be here, so I believe I am going to take this one and hopefully try to pick up a couple of these lore books on my way. Now, because I am transporting not at a way shrine, it does cost me a little bit. 131 is no big deal, so I'm just going to do that. It'll save myself the running. Okay. And it looks like those lore books should be somewhere around the roadway.
No
There's a guy
screeching,
with a side
spellcasting
quest
witch
because
will
it has
best
a little
Norgrid
black
Hardhelm.
arrow over his head.
Oh, my
I'm not
head.
interested in doing another side quest at the moment. I'm already on one, so I'm just going to pass him up. And here's the person I'm looking for.
What's this Daedric ruin doing here? Oh,
And
cool,
you
this
see
is
that
a
I
very
received
rare
86
Daedric.
golds for completing that quest. And I found the lore book. So, I was already in that delve anyway.
Change of plans?
And so it's no harm, no foul. It just gave me $86 to give the guy the quest. So now if you look at my zone map, you see that I've completed 6 out of 6 of the delves. You'll also notice that I have a couple X's, and I think since we're here in the vicinity, I'm going to head in that location. This just means that I have either survey maps or treasure maps. And I am going to head in those locations to get them. Now, if you are a console player, playing on either the Xbox or the PlayStation, I would highly recommend a free app called the ESO app, which will have these locations for you. Of course, you're not going to have benefit of having them actually on your screen like the PC players do, but at the same time, it is very handy, and the entire time that I used the Xbox, I used that app
Nothing wrong with a little
religiously for
opportunistic
locations
harvesting.
of sky shards. It would give maps of the delves and dungeons, and it would also give you the treasure map locations. So it looks like I've collected somebody's attention here.
Is that the last of them?
Ooh, hard to see. So this is a treasure map, so I'm looking for a pile of dirt.
Can never have enough of that.
Now, if you're using the ESO app, it will show you the general location of where something is. Let's see, I found it here. But if not, I want to show you how you can access that. I am looking for slottable items, and then I am coming down to Deshawn Treasure Map. So I can take a look at it, and you'll see that it is showing me the X and then also the 2 trees. So when you're using the ESO app and it shows you the general location and you get there, actually look at your treasure map so that you can see about where that is. So if you see that I am coming back here, and I can see this tree and that tree, and looking directly at it, and it shows me the X's in the middle of the 2, that is really going to help you to be able to find those locations. But certainly the ESO app is going to give you an idea of where exactly it is. PC players have benefit of an add-on that mark the treasure maps for them on their regular map. Now I have an alchemist survey in Dijon, and so what exactly does that mean? So a survey for alchemy is actually very similar to a treasure map, except it is an area where you can harvest a lot of things. In this particular case, it's going to be alchemy stuff, so it's going to be plants, and it's going to give me a very generous cache of raw materials. You see that I have this one in Dijon, and because I have it on my person, it has marked it for me on the map. So I'm going to head in that direction to it now. And it's showing me that it's actually on an island. So I'm just going to take the waterfall down and head straight to this little island. So I have a little bit of fighting to do here. Now the Alchemist Survey has a map very similar to the treasure map, where it just kind of shows you in the area that it is. So the ESO app will get you very close, and then you just kind of look for those things that you see that'll help you line up to find it exactly. I'm just picking up these lore books while I'm here. Now this is our survey, so it is also fairly easy to spot. You'll see that each of these things have lush columbine, lush wormwood, lush bowglass, lush mountain flower, and that means I'm going to get extra harvesting from those. So where normally I would get a couple, let's see what I get for this. I got 4 from this one, 4 from this one. So instead of it just being 1 per or occasionally 2 per, you can see that I'm really getting extra. That one I actually got baked in addition to 4 per. And I found the heavy sack. So those are definitely beneficial to do when you have those sorts of things, because you are going to get added benefits from those. And because I have found it, I'm going to get that little preview off. Now, if you were on a console, you would have to just keep pulling it up through your menu system that I showed you under slottables and pull it up. Now, I actually, oddly, had 2 for this location, which means that I need to go away a little bit so that the materials will respawn. So I'm going to go over here. And maybe run up this hill a moment. Fight this guy. and then head back in this direction and see if that was long enough for it to respawn. It was not, so I need to go a little further. So I'm going to head up to this way shrine here. And hopefully that was far enough that it'll respawn. So I'm going to just travel back. And yep, that worked. So I was able to get rid of both of those maps from my inventory and get a super nice harvest out of that. So nothing wrong with picking up those kinds of items. Sky shard left here, which I suspect is in a public dungeon. I have all the way shrines accounted for. I've not done any dolmens here, but that's a good benefit. So I'm just going to fast travel out of here back to my home base of Somerset and show you guys how I empty my pockets after all of this loot. And this is something that I typically do at the end of the day when I'm ready to quit playing. I am going to check in with my stable training guy though, because I'm pretty sure time has elapsed. And I want to definitely keep that 20-hour timer rolling. Nope, got 4 hours left. So I'll have to do that in the evening. So I'm going to talk to this merchant here and repair my gear. I'm going to sell anything that is ornate, selling trash, and also going through and selling anything that is white or green. I typically want to keep things that are blue and purple so that I can deconstruct them. And I have found that things that are, like for example, these Rubinite Greaves of Stamina, this particular one does have a trait, but generally I sell those sorts of things, but something like the Gloom Grace Gauntlets, I would deconstruct. So I am going to go ahead and sell these things. I don't use poisons, so I'm going to sell them for cash. And then it looks like I have a couple things I need to see if I can research those. So with that done, I'm going to go to each of the crafting sections. I'm going to just double check and make sure that I have researching going on, which I do. I'm going to deconstruct the platinum ring that was ornate, because that gives me extra inspiration to advance my crafting lines. And I'm going to go ahead and deconstruct all of these items. Coming over to the next station, checking my research. I've got 3 of 3 going. I'm going to go ahead and deconstruct these items. And you see I'm getting a pretty good loot from them over on the top right hand corner. Check my research, deconstruct. Research, deconstruct. And the Sword Singer's Maul I had not collected, but because I deconstructed it, it automatically bound it to me to my set collections. So that'll just save you a step. You don't actually have to bind things if you're going to deconstruct them. So the only other thing that I would do is just go into my inventory and make sure that my weapons are fully charged. And then that way I am ready to get going the next time that I log in. I know that I don't have to do any of that. My pockets are clear, my weapons are charged, my equipment's repaired, and I'm ready to start a plan of attack. So I've really enjoyed having you with me here today. I hope that I've given you some good information. If I ever say something or use a term that you do not understand, please feel free to shoot me a message or leave it in the comments below. As I receive these messages, I do try to answer them so that you guys can have a better understanding of what's going on. I know that for a game particularly like ESO, where it's pretty complicated, it can be a little overwhelming. Been there, done that. And hopefully you've enjoyed hanging out and playing with me, and let me know what we want to accomplish next. I appreciate having you along and looking forward to seeing you again. So please follow the page or like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next stream.